Alright, so let's continue. We have our tiling and we have our distance blend with our albedo texture. And now we want to add more things. So now we need a little more stuff we need to do. So it's getting a little more hairy here. So let's start by creating another material function, which you can find here under advanced. And we call this one MF textures. We opened that one up, of course, and we want to add the so-called tiling and the texture blend. This one. Boom. When I use the tiling and the near output, I can just drag out. And when you type in add reroute node, then you have this add named reroute declaration node. And we use that and we call it near. So this is just to save space, which it already states it's a reroute node. This one is basically just the same like this. So we can just hook this one up later here and save a lot of space. And then we just get the var and add reroute declaration node and call this one a var. Now let's go into the MF tiling here. And we need to copy the vector 2D, which is the near and far. So we get the near vector 2D and the far vector 2D. So let's copy that and we can close this. We are back into our textures, paste it inside, and we hook up the near and we hook up the far. Sweet. So let me put it like so. Or maybe let's just Q and then put this on top. Let's get this material function texture blend and put it here. It makes more sense. And then when you right click, you have named reroutes, right? So you get the near, put it into the near, like so. And you named reroute, get the far, and we put this one into the far. Perfect. Now we need to get the distance logic node, the scalar parameter, from our texture blend function. So this is the texture blend, so we open that one up. And we do have this scalar parameter, which is the function input called distance logic. So we just get this one and we put this into the material function textures. And from this distance logic, let's just also add a reroute node, but this one add named reroute declaration node. And we call this one distance logic. Let's put it here. And then we can use this one here, right click, distance logic, and we use it. Sweet. And then we have a texture 2D here. Let me open up the texture blend. So this one is called input in, doesn't make any sense. Let's call this albedo inside the texture blend, okay? Because this is now only for the albedo or for the base color. And then we can also apply and save here. Let me just get this texture blend again because it's not updating. Now it's updating. So let's just replace this node because Unreal Engine doesn't want to update that. So now we have it again, just the patched version basically. Then we need to go back to the texture blend. And before we hook this one up to the output, so it is already hooked up, but we just need to deactivate or unlink that because we need to get a switch. And this switch is called static switch. If I can type, just get the static switch and we can hook this one up like so. But of course, we want to use this whole logic, which is our far and near tiling, together with our distance, input distance. So if you want to use this, put this into true. And just in case, if we don't want that, we just use the near tiling. So the RGBA, sorry for that. We need to have this one and this one. Change the RGB to RGB alpha. Okay, make sure that you have this like so inside the MF texture blend. So it is not RGB, we prefer to use RGBA. And then we also use the RGBA and hook this up as straight into the false. So this means if we deactivate the distance blend, or the tiling, this just means that we will only use the near and we're not using any tiling, blending and stuff. So we need for this a static bool parameter. And we call this one use distance blend. Then we get this distance blend here. Let's apply and save as for the material function texture blend. So we just updated that. So as I told you, make sure that you hook this up from the RGBA, the texture objects, okay, and not RGB. And we just get this distance blend bool, and we put this into the MF texture, and let's put this one down here. And we also want to create a reroute. So from here, add named reroute declaration node. And we call this one distance blend SB for static bool. Sweet. And then we can go back here, right click, and we use the distance blend SB, and this is the switch. But you can see the switch is not updated. This means we can try to apply and save. Maybe this is fixing the issue. Okay, I made a mistake. Sorry for that. I was just not thinking straight. Let me just delete the distance blend bool and the reroute. Let me just delete this. Apply and save. Let me see if this is gone. Yes, it is. Because in this case, we're not using a static bool. We need a function input again. And this is not a bool. It's a static bool. So it is a static bool also, but in this case, it's an input, function input, and we call this one use distance blend and save. And then we will have that here. Let's organize things. So I want to have this distance blend before distance logic. So let me see. This is the distance logic. So we need to set this one to, let's set this to 3. Sort priority. The distance logic to 3 and the input to 2. Apply and save. And now this is a little better for me in this case, because I want to have the textures first, then tiling near far, and then we will ask if we want to use distance blend or not, and then we can use the distance logic. So the whole logic inside there. Now we can get the bool, the static bool, just copy that and put it here. And then add named reroute, boom, and we call this use distance blend. And then we can get the reroute from here, distance blend, and let's hook this one up here. Boom. And let me just, I don't really care if this is looking weird, I just want to have this straight. And I can read all that stuff and it's all connected properly. Okay, now we can actually hook up this stuff here for the MF textures. So this is only for the albedo. So this whole logic here. This is basically like all the back end stuff, like all the logic we have in our back end. And it's all connected and organized here. And this is basically the result. We can call this one albedo. So we get an error here because we also need to hook up the albedo. So just get another function input. This is the texture 2D. So this is perfectly fine for us because we are using textures. And we call this one albedo because this whole logic is for our albedo. Let's apply and save. And don't mind those errors. It's perfectly fine. We will get rid of that later. So now let's organize all that. So just drag select, press C, and this is the albedo. So this is the whole logic for our albedo texture. This is our distance logic. Let's put it here. And this is our, press C, tiling. And let me just put it here so it's perfectly fine. Make some space, right click, straight connection, and straighten the output. Okay, so let's continue. We can copy this whole chunk here. Drag select is better. Control C and Control V. So we put it inside here. And we call this one normal. And the function input is, of course, the normal. Let me just put this here. And the output here is also called normal. And then we copy everything here again. And we are going to stack the roughness and displacement and ambient occlusion if we have ambient occlusion. We're not sure later, but I try to have ambient occlusion. So this is called RDO for roughness, displacement, and ambient occlusion. And the output as well is RDO. So this is basically roughness would be the green channel. Roughness would be the red channel in this case. The displacement would be in the green channel, which we will leave aside for now. And in the blue channel would be the ambient occlusion. And let's call this one RDO. Okay, let's apply and save. And then we can basically sort things out. We do have the albedo. The normal would be 1. RDO would be 2. And let's just, we will see if this is going to work out. The sorting basically. So now we can get rid of our MF tiling and our MF texture blend. So the previous two material functions. Because now we can get the, let's close the texture blend. We can get into the material landscape. And we do have the texture blend and we do have the tiling. And we can just completely get rid of this. We deleted the MF tiling and the MF texture blend. So the only thing what's left is the distance blend and our parameters for near and far tiling. And of course our texture object, which is only the albedo. So right now, finally, we can get the material function textures. And now to see things, because this is not good, albedo, near, normal, far, this is all over the place. So we need to go into the MF textures and we need to see that, we need to check that albedo is 0, normal is 1, RDO is 2, and then the near could be, or should be 3, far should be 4, and the input distance logic scalar should be, in this case, 6, and this one is 5. Because I want to have the input distance blend, the use distance blend, first being listed. So let's just change this. And then we want to use the distance blend. So this is just our bool. If like yes or no, and then we can use the actual distance blend. And then let's apply and save. And now let's see albedo, normal, roughness, displacement, and ambient occlusion, near, far, use displacement, yes or no, distance logic. Now this is perfect. Okay, so the distance blend is the distance logic. The tiling near is near, the tiling far is far. This is the albedo. And we can just copy that 2 times. And we replace this with the normal. And this one, I don't have a stacked image. I don't have an RDO image. So let's just use the roughness. Okay, because I don't have a stacked image now. I should have done an image which is called RDO, because but I made them separately. So this is perfectly fine. So we can use the normal here and we can use the roughness here. So let's just organize it like so. And the distance blend, of course, we also need to hook this one up. So here we can just use this static bool parameter. So use distance blend. Boom. And then let's put it here, maybe. Here. And press Q. And now the one final step to actually use that for our material instance or our landscape material itself. We, sorry for that. We also need to, this one. This one is the priority 1. This one, 1. And this is 3. So we want to have things organized. Yes. So albedo is albedo, normal is normal. And as for the stacked RDO, roughness, displacement, and ambient occlusion, we need a so-called breakout float 3 components. So we are just splitting this stuff here. just make this a little more beautiful. Straighten that. And also straighten this thing. Straight connection. Yes. So basically, we only use the roughness for now. Okay? And this is perfectly fine. Later we can use displacement in green channel, and blue would be the displacement, the ambient occlusion. Okay. And I also will show you how to create your own texture inside Quixel Mixer, because Quixel Mixer is like the best thing. You can get good vegetation textures out of the box, and we can stack them into our separate channels. Yeah, in order to have the albedo working, we need to also, let me get a little more space. We need to also get a multiply, and we multiply the albedo with the blue channel. And then we hook this one up. Just to make sure that our albedo, if we have later when we have albedo, this will be automatically be fused together into our albedo. All right. So let's go back to the material function textures, and just to reevaluate. So we do have the tiling here, we have our function, and we did a reroute node for near and far, so, just to save space. So we're basically using it here for our tiling. Let's switch that. Otherwise it's looking weird. Come on, like so. And then we have that, and let's just cue that. So everything here is connected. It is just to set up all the materials for, not materials, the textures. So we have the logic, like all the logic we built, we have it now separate for albedo, normal, and for every like RGB channel here for roughness, displacement, and ambient occlusion. So for every single texture, we can use the distance blend, the distance logic, and we can also decide if we want to use it or not. And we can use the near and far tiling, and this will be applied for all those textures. So for one main material basically. Okay, so then we can just apply and save. And now you see it here. So we only have those texture objects. So we are just using those three texture things together with our near and far tiling and our distance logic, and everything looks sweet. And all the logic is inside here. Okay, so when albedo is going through this logic, and then it will be connected to our landscape. And also make sure that the normal here is set to normal. And the roughness is just linear color. But you don't. No, I don't think you need to change it to linear color. Let's just leave it at color. Or you can use grayscale. No, it's weird. Just leave it at gray, at color. But the normal you need to change, of course, to normal. And then apply. And now you can see we have, it's like completely reflective. The reason why that is because we're using like a black background texture for the roughness, and also the normal is hooked up with the black texture. This is the reason why it's looking so weird. But you can also just go to the M landscape. This is just placeholder material. Let's disconnect it here and here. So he is always demanding an input for our material functions. This is the problem. So I just disconnect the roughness and the normal here. And then you can see it's perfectly fine. And as for the ambient occlusion, this is the reason why. It's because we are multiplying the albedo with the ambient occlusion. This is the reason why it's now looking so weird. Yeah, but you can also just hook this one up without the blue channel multiplied, just to see if everything works. And it works. Okay, so we have no errors. We do know that only the albedo is now applied. Our distance blend is still working, and we can use the material instance. So our tiling near is working. The tiling far I can see is also working. Let's do 6. Our fade distance is working. And our end fade distance is working as well. Okay? Good. And now we have the possibility to use distance blend. So yeah, now probably you think like, okay, I have no idea what I did for this long episode here, but it's pretty crucial, it's pretty important. Now we cannot really see it, but we just have now the possibility next to albedo just to hook up the normal and roughness displacement and ambient occlusion. This is the reason. And we can just enable and disable the distance blend. So you don't want the distance blend, you can just deselect this or disable this, and you only have the near, as we just connected the near into the false Boolean. But if you want to have the distance blend back, you can set this one, and you have the distance blend. And again, let's just reconnect our stuff here. So let's just get the blue one. This is ambient occlusion, so let's just see ambient occlusion. And you can see it's only roughness because I don't have a packed material. This is the reason. We only use the roughness channel, the roughness texture. This is the reason. But we can see it's working. So for that, this is the albedo multiplied with the blue channel. So later when we have on the blue channel the ambient occlusion, we can see that this is multiplied together. Here you can see it's multiplied together. This is why it's looking so weird. Yeah, because it's overlapping. And then we can also disconnect this and only check the normal. So the normal is here. So let's only check the normal. And we can see the normal is also now available. And it's a little blurry because it's a normal channel. So, and of course you should not put a black and white texture into normal. This is the reason why it's looking so weird. But now we do know that they all work. And also let's just do the roughness. So roughness channel into the roughness. So we only want to see the roughness. And we can also see, now it's highly reflective, we can see our roughness. And the blending also works. Good. So sorry for that. I know it's now pretty bad to see. It's a bad example to show this, but we will see this in the next episode. Okay, so this is connected, this is connected. Okay, fine. Good. So just make sure that it's going to look like this. And the distance blend is working. And you can see the roughness, the normal, and all that stuff. All right, we will just add a little more logic, and then we are almost done with our smart material.